partner has been taken. Azir gone now, though, to me, kind of says that AL are going to be looking for things like the Rise. Again, a really prominent champion, and one that I think that Shanks has been very, very good at being able to pilot. That has been where I think AL have been at their strongest, is allowing Shanks to kind of play to the side lane, open up the map for them, and create plays across.
Driving going to be the final ban over towards Tarzan, who I'm curious to see how much more he leads towards being a facilitator in this game after the carry performance didn't go so well. Good call there, Dimitri. The B1 pick will be that Rise for Shanks.
So no Akali to maybe get underneath him, and there's no Annie anymore. So the answers, I think, here for Karis to get a little bit more limited. You can try to go for something like an Ahri. I know that Talia has kind of fallen out of the presence of the current mid laners, so I'll be interested to see what Karis goes for. WE, though, I think very shrewdly getting not only Xin Zhao and Sion, I think strong takeaways from their opponents, and you already kind of are setting up for what are classic champion profiles for these two players.
And while we have doubted Cube's carry potential, and he did kind of quell those sort of doubts in Game 1, this is a classic Cube champion, right? I know everybody plays Sion, but this is a uber comfort pick for Mr. Cube, so I never hate getting that one out of the way early. This would, you know, all right, so Lucian's going to get locked in. This is probably going to be Lucian Melio. This is, you know, one, we were worried about their lane threatening power in Hope and Kael going into this series. I think they were all right. In the Ezreal Seraphine lane, they were behind gold. Mr. Hope at 15 is that key stat. So them indexing into Lucian Melio, gutsy call. I'll label it that one, Dimitri.
Very low crowd control, though, and especially low targeted crowd control from WE. I think that Lucian Melio has some legs to stand on here in this game. And if Hope is going to have the same level of performance in the mid game like we saw from him in that last one, I'll give him the pass, but I need to see him actually come up big on this one. So against this, the calling in mid-game is going to have massive value. Rise in a side lane now is, again, just allowing Shanks to play without Roam Warp. Really, really dangerous for a team like AL who love to play a smarter game, love to play the game a little bit wider on the map. Pantheon being banned, again, I'm just absolutely flabbergasted by the lack of priority, especially for a player like Tarzan, on this champion on Pantheon. So glad to see WE are showing their respect, but I am very confused by what we have been seeing recently.
Yeah, I wonder what Tarzan's looking for that he feels like he needs to hold jungle later into this draft. Also, quick shout out to the Karis Cassiopeia. I know you've really talked a lot about this, that if you're going to pick this champion, you need to be, you know, there needs to not be a big range discrepancy. So I actually really love this slam into the Lucian Melio, and the Rise is it's very hard now for AL to pick someone that will truly outrange this Cassio and be able to punish it consistently.
Nautilus, I like this. Lane's going to be tough. You're probably not going to find very many angles, but if jungle starts to get involved, I do think that they can try to hunt down this bottom lane especially. And Nocturne is good for playing the sides mid-jungle, playing to try to catch out Cassiopeia in side lanes. I always love that as a potential here. But for WE, what I really want to see from them is what bot lane we're going to be able to pair yet again here for about who's getting counterpick in this game. And how are we going to get around some of the scaling elements of this AL team? There is a Shen. Is this for jungle, or are we taking this into the Sion, which is a very good matchup for Flandre?
And also would help, you know, actually regardless where it goes, the side lane threat that Shen can provide offensively. We always talk about the staying united defensively, but, you know, no matter if it's going top or jungle, it can jump on top of somebody who's going forward and look for a side lane pick here. Early hover indicates it's going to be Flandre, who does have some Shen reps under him, of course. We'll lock that one in. And we see the Vi come through for Tarzan again. He played this for the first time this split last series against JDG. He's now doubling down and picking it here. I wonder what Tarzan sees in Vi on this patch that he's suddenly picking up this champion.
I think they just need more engage, right? Like if you don't pick if you pick something like Skarner here in this game, you're going to have literally zero threat on a Cassio. And so Vi kind of feels like a necessity here. Again, with Xin Zhao gone,
MF into Vi?
You're going to have that. MF into Vi, Shen, and Rise. Dangerous, but as we saw in that last game, yes, About became more important later on, but this game was really dictated, again, by the mid laners, by Karis having that big impact. And we'll see what this matchup is going to be. I know early on this year, I was a big hater of Cassio into Ryze, but now that Storm Raiders is in, FaZe Rush is out, DFT is in this game, I do think that Cassio now is a little bit more appetizing. And like you mentioned, shorter range does mean that Cassio can thrive. And if she gets Rod of Aegis, Saris, Zhonya's even later on, I mean, she's basically never getting killed because this Vi can't really target her.
Yeah, I think some of us were a bit worried about how WE could approach a draft after such a big Game 1 win. I have to say, I think while we are worried about About's misfortune for obvious reasons, the point you led with there, all to me, is awesome. Team WE are saying, Karis Cube, you guys played really well Game 1. Let's just give you the rock again, right? Let's play the hot hand and see if we can get ourselves a 2-0 sweep. I'm a fan of this draft for the most part from Team WE. I think once again, it's AL really indexing in to be able to play pick potential on the map, and 5v5 fights are going to be pretty difficult for them.
It's all about, can this Vi get any value here in this game? I'm always going to look at Ryze as this really strong beast of a champion on 3 items. We'll see if they can deliver. Here again, potentially on the verge of WE looking down a Game 2 win here at the home arena.
But you can hear the AL Yaoyaos ring out as well, almost erratic, as they want to see their team finally round into playoff form, and most importantly, avoid getting upset by this 1-11 upstart Team WE squad as of late. No jungle shenanigans to speak of just yet. Looks like we're just going to see a Raptor start here for Monki. Tarzan on his blue buff, so unless we see any invades come across, I was going to say we're just going to path down, but Monki's immediately sprinting into Tarzan's jungle on top of a ward.
Dude, fight this guy. We've got Raptors. He's got level 2. That's about it right now. Tarzan's going to be pushed out. More than likely, he's just going to be able to finish his jungle. So Monki is going to be behind. But as with most things in jungle here, this is all a exercise in getting information on the enemy team. Yes, Monki is going to be behind, especially in his clear, but knowing that Vi is topside, knowing that she's going to be pathing down, very important. Karis, don't get solo killed, brother. The minions,
No.
Oh my god, 17 HP. Thank you to our observers.
No, don't do that to me, observers. I just assumed it was a kill because the observers were focusing on that. It's also a kill of Shanks. I think Flash for Flash just throws out even an auto, but hey, listen. Still a big win for Shanks. Gets a ton of lane pressure. I don't even think he necessarily has to TP back here, unless he wants to keep up the pressure, so why not? So he will look for that TP back, as Arha is on his own mission right now to try and defend the blue buff from Tarzan. Monki is recalling. He will not be here, but the blue buff is going to reset. Tarzan maybe a little bit worried that Monki is here.
I mean, Melio is here to help. It's gonna leash again. Look at the patience. It's going down. Patience meter means that he's probably just gonna have to smite this. Arha, he's level 2. This is just a flash and an out.
Okay, Monki has arrived. Tarzan will win the 14 HP smite fight. Dredgeline's going to land. First blood goes to About. Trade immediately back here by AL.
What are we doing?
And the double tap started to sink through here for Hope. Flashes forward. Monki tries to dash towards the ground to find himself some safety. When becomes lightning, slows up just enough. Monki should be able to kite back towards his tier 1 turn. About's going to get a ton of value from these double taps. Double dash forward. Hope finds the kill. The barrier is supreme. Here comes About's for the trade. Can he find the
Oh,
yes! And he flashes away perfectly succinct to make sure it's a 2-for-2 trade.
Why are we flipping the game at 3 minutes, guys?
Because it's the LPL!
It was all for a blue buff, which Tarzan still gets, and he steals his Grom. So yet another start where AL get off to a massive lead in jungle, but can they snowball this? Because now About just got 2 kills, Karis has gone down, and while it's a little bit more in favor of AL, W are doing everything to try to screw with Tarzan early on in this game.
And I love it because it really feels like you slow Tarzan down. This AL team comes to a grinding halt. No better example than that than what we saw Junja do, trying to just annoy Tarzan in the last series we saw from AL. We just don't talk about Game 2 where Tarzan definitely got his revenge, but hey, who took the series, am I right?
Exactly. Currently, AL would have had an 8 in that win column instead of a 7, but who knows? So, WE, the game definitely exploded. I am not expecting to see very much early game around this dragon. The lanes just don't really allow for it. And right now, what I am kind of going to be indexing very heavily on is if we can get some item spikes. What are we going to do for these grubs that are spawning in 3.5 minutes? Because looking at some of these lanes, I do not want to be early on trying to play against a team that has a Shen. A Shen wants a controlled game. He wants something where you can really play around the long cooldown of Stand United early. You know, just kind of abuse the fact that you can be in multiple places at once and have extra skirmishing potential. That with a Rise as well.
For the flip side here, pro WE take on what I don't want to lane into. I never want to lane into an AD carry. This first back brings the BF sword. That's what about is. But
true.
Hey, we were worried about the potential to jump onto this misfortune with a Vi and the Shen you talked about. So ever present that AL make about a serious target, especially knowing that for this dragon that's still up and just about to win the grub spawn, not that about would be at them, his flash will still be down.
I'm sad we're not going to get a replay of that fight. And my eyes went really wide when we were in the laning phase earlier on in this game because About opted for Shield Bash plus Bone Plating. Into range matchups, it's typically not something you would want, especially the Bone Plating. Shield Bash has its place, especially because you're probably going BF Sword at some point. Flandre has ultimate, and you're playing on the wrong side of the lane here as WE. Tarzan could be looking for something, but no vision and maybe a little bit overextension, is instead just going to opt for the dragon.
Yeah, maybe if he had access to that cease and desist, makes that gank a bit easier, but is going to in fact back off. Monki was tracking towards his top side, is now newly sprinting down towards this dragon, but look at Shanks' prio, look at the bottom lane prio. There really shouldn't be a way to make this work, but Cube is going to ult in here. We're realm warping behind About as Arha does get cut off. There's a Standing United coming across, hoping About have a 1v1 for the time being as Shanks needs to get over towards his AD carry, but About should be as good as kaput here. Barrier should not be able to save him. Shanks picks up that first kill. Flandre on the front side should get burned down and traded right back. Karis has donated that kill, but Tarzan was able to secure the dragon. So once again, margin's really close, Hulk Battery, but it's AL that come out slightly ahead.
They'll get the dragon, and like you were mentioning, that kill, good for equalizing the bottom lane, but it does come at a cost. Shanks will pick up this wave. I wonder if he can get another plate because it has to make up for what is the deficit going to be here for Shen. It's into Sion, but still you do not want to be falling behind. Sion in this game can be a big problem for AL if they don't get off to a start. And look at Shanks. I feel bad because I like the idea behind the Realm Warp, but being completely cut off from his team and not being able to put down more damage, this, I feel, is a fight that should have gone more in AL's favor, but Shanks, I think, just being way too far away from the rest of his team.
Yeah, he spent a good 5 seconds clicking back and forth around that fat wall. Very valuable time, like you mentioned, in a team fight. We should potentially be tracking towards another one very soon here. The grubs are up in about 20 seconds. We talked a lot about that Stand United cooldown. Of course, that being off the board for a very long time at this point. Wonder how much WE, knowing that, will try and just pressure these grubs to get their first pick at that neutral objective.
I would love to see it. They are behind the 8-ball as AL. Just Shanks stayed for another wave bottom lane and isn't going to be able to complete his Rod of Ages, which is going to be here probably within the next 2 or 3 waves. And now that he has a TP, yeah, Arha here is first. Karis is here, so I think this is just going to be WE taking at least one of these grubs.
Kael is on the bottom lane. He's playing Melio, man, so he's got to stay in his 2v2 lane. Wouldn't hate this from Tarzan. Maybe looking to dive About here at that cease and desist. Is spotted walking over. Shanks now comes off of the map, and yep, great awareness About. It sucks to donate a wave, but you are clearly the only play here for AL, especially if you show anywhere on the map right now. All right. Good.
We're not going for this. Sorry, guys, we have to give up this wave. One caveat I will give to MF is that she is essentially the bot laner's version of Rumble. If Rumble's ever under threat of a dive, he throws out an equalizer, he clears the wave, he gets himself a recall. Same thing for MF. If she thinks there's a dive, you throw out that bullet time, you delete the minion wave, and you get your recall in. So just going to play very respectful, and this is going to give AL not only time to invade the bot side jungle of Monki, but also even up that gold lead that we saw from about early on.
Oh my god, Arha flashing over the wall, gets the dredge line into the bullet time, forces out the breath of life. I kind of love the playmaking, can't hate it, but they don't end up committing to the kill.
Respect. All about sauce. All about, can I just take one of your summoner spells? Didn't have anything to give up, and like you mentioned, it was just the ultimate, but it'll be a wave that is caught. And more importantly, I think, look, Ara is going to have his Hex Flash, so you'll still have access to this summoner spell, just in a little bit less of a capacity.
I like it, though. Arha, you know, I really felt like made his name last year on playing some really high-level engaged supports. Was able to show, you know, really cool windows that I feel like not a lot of support players necessarily get, and what really stood out to me originally. So, despite the fact, you know, obviously we have a lot more enchanters in the meta, it feels like we have one of our more balanced support pools of recent metas. That he's been able to, you know, get this Nautilus game in, and like you mentioned, it wasn't going to be great for the lane, but the lane is coming to a close soon, so the value of this Nautilus is really going to start ticking up here in this mid game for WE.
Okay, I have 2 points, and they both kind of revolve around mid lane. One of them being that Karis, because he's behind, actually hasn't bought his Rod of Ages yet. He's looking for a recall before this dragon so that he can buy it. He's going to be about a minute behind Shanks here in this game. And number 2, Shanks having Realm Warp but no lanes to play for does limit some of the options here for AL. There is a Stand United, dragon spawning in 30 seconds, so as long as WE don't overextend, or they're making sure to pay attention where the solo lanes of AL are, it'll make the fight a little bit more even. But the fact that they can reposition so quickly from anyone's legend, I think is going to prove very difficult for WE.
Well, Shanks going after Pink Ward. He jumps on top of him. 3 talent strike, knock up. Already went through, so Shanks loses that Realm Warp. And that's going to take away a lot of the flank ability of AL in this 5v5. Coling also came down there from Hope. Gets decent chunk damage into a bout, but that's 2 ultimates off the board here as the Dragon hits the Rift here. Yeah,
no culling and the adaptive potion for Lucian. I'm winning that fight. Cube is going to try to use his ultimate to get in. How are AL going to find? I think this has to just be a massive steal from Tarzan.
All right, Shen stand united onto the Vi, going over the wall. Vault Breaker gonna immediately go into the Seize Assist on top of About. There comes out the Crescent Guard. Bullet time turning from About. Can it get rid of these health bars? There's just not enough damage, and the Dragon is picked up from Tarzan. The Shen delivery system with the Vi works wonders, and the Pandas are gonna wipe down this fight, only losing a couple of members, but winning out on the game state. What an ace for anyone's legend.
Dude, that was a crazy look from Tarzan. He knows he has the health to go for it. They try to set up right onto this Cassiopeia and the MF, who, by the way, standing right on top of each other. So you're going to lose that flash. We'll take a look at this from Flandre's perspective, probably already panning his camera over. Look at this. You cannot have this. One of the GOATs of the LPL, Yaoyao, what did he say? Do not have minute 80 carry standing on the same place. And he get punished there. Flandre and Tarzan being able to disrupt all of the damage from WE. And get the Dragon.
Yep, and he got that Dragon steal that really feels like the biggest win. That was fight lines that felt so WE favored. Tarzan and his creative engages gets AL. Still a sizable chunk gold lead, about 1.7, but it really feels like the Dragon stacking is the real win. A clear Soul win con to play for. If things go well for AL, they could have a shot at Ocean Soul at a mere 23 minutes.
Ocean Dragon in general is so valuable to champs like Lucian and Ryze, and later on, if it becomes a reality for WE, this Cassio. So they are I feel like AL this game are one step ahead of the 8-ball. They're a minute ahead in their their Rod of Ages that we see for the mid laners. Their Shen is just a little bit ahead of this matchup. We're even seeing Hope start to come out to a big lead here before 15 minutes. Everything is starting to go well here for AL, who we saw them. I think that some of this game does come down to the fact that we saw WE invest for an invade early.
Flandre? I don't know what that TP was. We're flashing mid lane, though, where Hope drops a full culling. Double tap autos come across. One more dash forward, and About is dead. How about this gold lead for Hope? It crews even further, pushing over the 600 mark.
Man, About maybe taking some lessons from the school of Jackie Love. You know, a little too far up on the mid wave. My support's in topside jungle. There you go, kaput. AL find that kill, and now they're just going to be able to take everything on side lanes. Ryze is now going to match Cube, but they've already gotten turret plates for some of their carries here.
Yeah, that Flandre TP definitely looked a bit odd at first, but now, with Shanks, as you called out, being able to match the TP bot side, it is another winning play here for AL as their gold lead is continuing to balloon. Cube going for an stop onslaught play onto Shanks here. Gets the slow, decimating smash only with another slow.
Oh no.
Cube, I don't think can push further for the solo kill because here comes Tarzan. Immediately gonna have to flash away. No cease and assist. Going to be committed here for Tarzan. Monki showing up now, but I think this play is fizzled out.
They could go for more. They could try to look for it. Yeah, Cube, if you can get eyes on Ryze, this might just be a Monki trying to look for it.
Monki
Tarzan's
spotted by
Tarzan.
Realm Warp, I think it's going to go off first. Oh, he tried to knock him out of it with the Crescent Guard. But won't be able to find that one. Is okay. This time Arha does have a support stand. United have he uses it. Hope eats a full meal of bullet time. Dredgeline flash from Arha is enough to get him out with a blinking health bar. This Tarzan seems to be everywhere, but that pressure alone will get AL the mid-tier 1 turret at the least.
Look, WE, they traded all of this to get themselves a bottom lane tier 1. Cube is going to be more and more tanky in this game. And while Cassio's farming a side lane wave, AL are going to grab themselves multiple summoner spells and the mid-tier 1. And let's just put a Rift Herald on top of this with vision from WE to spot this. Monki, you have no ultimate. We are not walking into this, brother. We are taking our Raptors, and we're looking to the next play, which is Dragon in a minute's time.
And that's what really is going to decide if AL are going to kind of take over this game, or if W are going to be able to stall out some value. Because it is worth mentioning that while I do agree that Ryze 3 items is a very scary scaling prospect for AL, buying time for your Cassio to get more stacks on Aroa, more items, you know, get the Seraphs completed, and of course Cube infinitely scaling with how much health he can stack. WE can find value in a slowed down mid game.
That is true. Unfortunately, Slayer, this is a 1,200 gold Ryze who's about to finish Seraphs and also has DFT. So, very scary. And we just saw Hope there. We've been talking about the top side of the map. This Lucian packs a punch with this Melio right now. I mean, we just saw one trade there take away half of About's HP, and he has a Bloodthirster, so he'll have sustain, but can he match 1-for-1 in the damage? I don't think we've really seen that here outside of the first few minutes of this game. WE are posturing, but again, the Shen ultimate not up and available.
Yep, used it to try and save About in that skirmish. Tarzan gonna get his Battle Herald. Flandre is using that Ocean Soul extra brush to see if he can get his way in here. Dragon is going to be secured by Team WE. They're dumping everything onto Arha, but he gets the Dredgeline onto Shanks, who's caught up on the top side of this fight. Shanks, will he be able to flash out? No, Cube finds that first kill. About though and Karis stuck on top of each other, and the cease and desist from Tarzan finds one, and he doubles up for a second. No Shanks, no problem. AL are wiping down the back end of this fight as a taunt comes through on the Monki. Tier 2 turret be damned, and now Cube's health bar will be tested to the maximum as he tries to hold all of AL at bay. Thankfully, through a ramping turret will keep Cube alive. But the Dragon stacking stoppage from WE comes at a huge gold bounty.
I don't know if taking the Dragon away is worth 4 of our teammates dying. And guess what? Flash from Monki, Karis, and About. I think it's a really expensive price tag to put on top of this. Arha was trying to look for something, but that Hex Flash bites him as Shanks has a massive flank. There's no ultimate here for About, and this Battle Herald we have seen kind of just completely change a lot of games here thanks to the new season. I don't know what else to say here, Slayer. This Vi in the backline is just too dangerous. Shen as well puts too much pressure onto Cassiopeia and Misfortune.
And then once again, they were standing on top of each other. They were directly on top.
Yeah.
And that made the Shen with a Titanic Hydra and a Vi's life a lot easier. The gold lead now over about 4K, and you can see it represented in some of these items. We still are yet to see Karis even complete the Seraphs in this game. Shanks' gold lead is huge. Tarzan's gold lead is huge. This is how AL have been able to get a lot of wins this split through those two, finding massive advantages.
Shanks just gets to play a fairly risk-free game here into the Cassiopeia. And I'm most impressed by Vi for Tarzan. He has, even last year, not really prioritized this champion when it was a meta-defining pick throughout the season. And so far, what we have seen from here, this split so far on the Vi, I think he has kind of moved away from this champion being rather monotone when it comes to what it tends to do in games. And my problem recently for Tarzan has actually been that I think some of his carry picks haven't been as banger, and Vi kind of is a champion that actually tends to play for her team instead of herself. Seeing him basically be a carry force.
All right, Cube actually ends up being the one that has to use another key summoner. Flashes away as Shanks commits that Realm Warp. Not much of a punish there, except that loss of Flash. Those ults are going to be back up by the time any Baron scuffles or another Ocean Drake comes across. Tarzan looking for a Vault Breaker in to find a good cease and desist. He's targeting about, going to flash to get it, but the ball comes up from Cube. The Crescent Guard from Monki. Can they protect About long enough? No! Flandre dashes in and takes down About, and Cube is not taking enough. AL find 2 clutch picks. It's a double kill to Shanks, and it's Baron time for the Pandas.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get back to hating Cassiopeia versus Ryze. I'm back on it. I thought maybe they could give me a little bit of sauce here in this game. Nope, it still sucks. It used to be a classic counter, but Ryze, especially with the lead that they got and the amount of threat that Vi. Yeah. I mean, he is level 14 to be fair.
Dawn, baby.
Dusk and Dawn plus Titanic Hydra. Yeah, he completely claps up Monki any day of the week that he wants, and maybe even twice on Sundays. So Baron here, and then we got a minute before the next dragon. Soul is likely not going to be a very realistic thing here in this game here at Slayer, but you know, it is something that we could look forward to if we're trying to take a real victory lap for the Pandas.
What I'm looking forward to at this rate, the Shanks player of the game. This guy's 2K gold now ahead of Karis. And now is nap time to make sure to shout out the birthday boy. Of course, at LPL English, we want to hear from you guys. Who are your all-pros for Group Ascend teams? And, well, it feels like birthday boy Shanks has to be one of those mid laners in contention. I certainly believe that between him and Cream, one of the two of them should be the last spot when it comes to mid laners this split.
Yep, because everybody in mid lane is, it's Knight and then everybody else. So, yeah, if you want to get voting, voting does end on the 19th, so you guys have a little bit under 6 days at this point. Make sure you guys get involved. It's in our community Discord in the announcements tab. Get tapped in and hang out with some other LPL fans from the community. But as we finish out this game here, Slayer, very strong performance. And yes, it was from this mid jungle, but I would honestly be not surprised to see Flandre pick up an MVP here for this game. This Shen pick has completely turned this game around multiple times.
And hey, back to our gold difference stat between how negative it has been for Flandre and Hope at that 15-minute mark. Both of them were very much so ahead of the 8 ball this time, and look at how big of a win it means for AL. So we need to continue to see the team as a whole round into playoff form, not just Tarzan and Shanks carrying a lot of the weight. And they will, as a whole, AL, now go for that third dragon. WE have no business contesting this, so within seconds of it spawning, AL take down the second Ocean Drake of the game and get themselves onto Ocean Soul Point.
Can we make a side lane play? No. Can we win team fights? Likely impossible. There is always, oh, never mind. Yeah, okay, let's just go to game 3. I just saw about second item.
Yeah, that should be an IE, folks, in case you're curious.
No, it should not be an IE because then you would have 25% crit chance. Let's not do an IE there for MF. We could do Essence Reaver. I'm okay with Essence Reaver. I'm also okay with literally any other crit item that has AD on it, just not Collector. I think there is some. Yeah, you can make an argument in chat saying there is not a ton of armor from the enemy team. I would ignore you, mostly because I don't have chat open, but also because I think that that's bad. But the execute is nice. It just, we already see a lack of damage from WE, so the times in which you'll be able to have access to not only the lethality, but then also it having the execute, I just don't think is very realistic. So, yeah, okay, I'm less I'm less hopeful that we'll get a WE comeback here.
Yeah, that build path definitely does not inspire the masses, without a doubt. Still, we are in a bit of a lull because AL are kind of, you know, just waiting for this next big objective to come up, eyeing that Baron in about 2.5 minutes to see if they could really use that to try and break open the base of Team WE. They still got some outer turrets to get down, but it is pretty hard for this AL comp, I feel like, to get a lot of true sieging power. This is not a composition designed well to siege, and it's always scary going into stuff like a Cassiopeia, who can really immediately turn a pick around onto somebody.
Yeah, Slayer, I'm just looking at the, goodbye.
Welcome to playing Misfortune with a Vi and a Shen, buddy. Yeah, that was destined from draft.
That was a Shen. I don't know if they needed to use all 3 ultimates for it, but it definitely sent a message. Yeah. Yes. It's all about making sure your opponents know you're not allowed to touch this wave. That one's ours. So, yeah, Slayer, and we don't usually talk about this because this is the Gluttonous Greaves upgraded, the Immortal Path, I think is the name. I'm not a huge fan of this on Cassiopeia. I do think that she would probably just be benefiting from using goodbye.
Yep, you hooked Emilio. Breath of Life comes down. Crescent Guard having to be used by Monki to try and get Flandre off the back line. The Petrified Gaze does not stun anybody up and about. Is nowhere to be found. It's all hope here. Finally, about will respawn with the bullet time, but it's just to try and keep A off the Nexus turrets, but they are pushing for this final end here. Number 1 Nexus turret down, AL. What a response. Just like against JDG, they get slapped down in game 1 and come back angrier for game 2. We aren't even going to crest over 26 minutes before anyone's legend dismantle Team WE to force a game 3.
Oh, okay, we're getting some shutdowns here.
Before 26 minutes, bang, 25-58.
Oh, I can't wait to see the post-game screen. If it says 26 minutes, we're completely screwed.
It won't.
Congratulations to AL, not only with this game win, obviously tying up the series, but also locking themselves top 4 here with this win. So congratulations to them. They now basically are going to be playing for standings and placements, like you mentioned. As we go into playoffs, once you are a top 4 team, you don't have to play in the play-ins. And depending on your placements, you get to choose your opponents, which can be a big boon, especially when you get to see an extra best-of-5s worth of games.
So if we have some time before the post-game stats run production, if we could just, I think it's a good time to throw up the standings now that we know what the picture will look like. So, that also the top.
The schedule's fine. No, wait.
No, that's
okay.
also.
All right, bro, let's get into it. Let's get.
Okay, so now you know, AL, they're gonna take their number 4 over to blue. NIP fans,
Yep.
I'm sorry. Locked in green. So 1 through 4 can shake up a bit. 5 through 8 can shake up somewhat. But NIP, Weibo, IGWE, they are in the play-in tournament. BLG, JDG, Top Esports, AL, skip the play-in tournament.
There might be some fans who are saying, but casters, how is that possible? They could still get 7 and 7, and then AL could do all this like other stuff that happens. Unfortunately, the way that tiebreakers work in our league, it does come down to game differential, and with where NIP are, they can no longer lap them. If anybody is interested, AL is currently at +4, NIP are at -2, and unfortunately, even if they lost this series, the lowest that AL would be able to get is 1, so they would not be able to do it. And we're taking a look at the rest of our standings. Top Esports against BLG, not that difficult. This is now basically how AL are going to finish anywhere above 4th. I think it is really tough, especially because JDG are already in 2nd place. And depending on how BLG do this week, could actually end up as our 2nd seed. Or even our 1st seed going into playoffs.
Yeah, so, you know, there were the arguments that we could see AL push up through the standings, but we felt like looking at the remaining schedule shows that we feel like AL is pretty locked into 4th. My main reason is that little subtext under the top 4 remaining schedule part. JDG get to play Weibo and IG to finish up their split here, which, you know, I think really indicates that they're not going to go below AL. And
check the time.
Yo, how does this even get determined? I watched the Nexus I guess it didn't explode yet, so it's off when it explodes.
So the way that game time and specifically game end is calculated in for Pro is the Nexus explodes, but it's really when the actual game itself ends. Like the client closes and everything. It's like Nexus explosion, and then when like the victory screen comes up, a few seconds after that, boom, that's when the time is cut off. So 26 on the dot. You can blame AL for kind of messing around at the end there.
Yeah, it's definitely AL, going for some of the KDA. Still so funny to think that this game was such a flip in classic fashion at Blue Buff, where we came away with, wins on both sides. We felt like it was a little bit of an AL lead, but About picks up this nice double kill, using really limit testing his barrier and his flash in this last exchange. But hey, we kind of called it from draft. It didn't really matter if Misfortune got a lead because AL were making sure that this Misfortune's life was a living nightmare.
Dude, this was such a disgusting setup. And basically from this point in the game, it became near impossible, I would say, for WE to play. We saw this just repeatedly. You just are too tanky to take down. Cassiopeia is way too fragile at this point in the game, especially because almost getting solo killed to start just put her at a deficit early on. So another instance where we get to a game and, the early game looks promising, bot lane has a lead, but I press tab and I look at my top side and we are either going even or behind, especially coming off of the back of an MVP performance from Karis in Game 1.
Yeah, brother didn't complete his Seraphs until the game was basically over. He was sitting on a tier and a Fiendish Codex for, I think it was like 8 minutes at this point. So really good bounce back from Shanks. Again, I do think that, Flandre has a really standout performance, so I think that does add a bit of an extra edge, but this did feel like the classic way for AL to win a lot of their games, which is Tarzan getting creative and Shanks kind of blowing out his lane opponent.
Dude, why did we have to send 4 people for this? This is so unnecessary.
You know why.
It ended the game.
Yeah, that's the second time we've done that.
Yeah, it did end the game. It's just mean. Maybe they were trying to tell him, like, this is what you get for building Collector, okay? This is what we do to people who build Collector.
I think it was more so, this is what you get for picking Misfortune into Vi. I think that's more so.
Nah, I think it's the item that definitely sold it for him.
I think the item got a nice chuckle out of AL, and at least got a nice chuckle. All right, put your money where your mouth is, Mr. Dimitri. Who is the MVP? Who do you think they're going to give it to?
It's probably Tarzan. It's probably Tarzan. It's almost always Tarzan. I look at the MVPs right now for the standings. Tarzan has 7. He's tied for 4th with Jackie Love. And if he gets 8, then he's suddenly in 2nd place, and he's tied with... Yes! All right. I'm not taking credit for this, but I did say at the end of this game that Shen is probably getting an MVP vote. So I should have just stuck on my guns.
Yep. This felt like a very fun Flandre game. It felt like a Flandre game because it wasn't just the Shen, it's his build, right? I think that's where it got fun. It felt so Flandre-esque when he was nearly about to solo kill Monki, just walking around the mid lane with this Dusk and Dawn Titanic Hydra. So big shout out to Flandre. Biggest strength for him is how creative he is with his champion pool and how on tap he is with the meta of the current patch. And we saw that come across with this Dusk and Dawn Shen. It was still too tanky for Team WE to deal with. Let's get a look at the voting here. Both Tarzan and Shanks did get a nod on the POG votes.
Good. Deserved. Especially Tarzan played a very devious game. And so far, jungle has been who can invade, who gets to have priority around what objectives, can you play around early camps to set them behind. So continue to see that here in game number 3. We'll see if WE can make a bounce back or if AL are just going to say that game 1 was a fluke, it was a mirage. And
while, our playoff and play-in teams are now locked in for Group Ascend, there's not a lot of wiggle room for Team WE in the standings, a little bit for AL. You may think, what's the big deal? We're playing for pride, folks. Team WE smashed AL in Game 1. AL came back with a response, but there's nothing sweeter in the regular season than a Game 3 with all the pride stakes on the line. So our final draft of the night is coming your way, AL Team WE, after another break.